Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel and welcome to my October wrap-up. So today I will be talking about the 7 books that I read in October, and then I also finished 2 crochet projects that I'll talk about as well. It is crazy to me that this book I'm about to talk about I read a month ago. Like, for some reason it feels like it's been forever since I've read this. But anyway, the first book that I read in October is A Voice in the Wind by Francine. This book is set in the 1st century AD and it's set in Rome. So during like the Roman Empire, and there's like gladiators, and we are following the main character Hadassah. So she is Jewish, but she is a Christian, and she was sold into slavery after Jerusalem was invaded, I guess, by the Roman Empire. So we're following her story of being a slave in this Roman household. There are 2 other main characters, Marcus and Julia, who are Romans, and their family is the one that buys Hadassah as a slave. We're following their story, and we're also following Atreides, who is a tribesman, and he's training to be a gladiator to compete in the games. This book, it was a really interesting setting. I've never read about anything set in that time before. I guess that you could say this book is historical fiction. I liked that I could relate to the main character being a Christian and like hearing her thoughts about being Christian and like her fears and her struggles through her faith. That was really cool for me to like relate on that level. I also think the like character development is very important. Like, I feel like this book was very much a character study on those 4 characters that I mentioned and their like internal thoughts and struggles and what they're going through being a part in whatever way they are of the Roman Empire. But I don't really love Francine Rivers' writing style. This is something I've run into in a few of her books that I've tried to read. It just feels very much like matter of fact, and like she's telling you everything that's happening instead of showing you. I did like the POV in this book. It was like at any moment you could be reading about any one of the characters' thoughts, so you could kind of get the entire picture, not just from like chapter to chapter. Like if it's multiple POV, most of books have like this chapter in one POV, this chapter in a different, but this one was like at any moment it could be any character that you're reading about. So that was kind of interesting, but it still felt very like telling instead of showing through the characters' actions or their facial expressions or whatever it was. I'm also still deciding if I want to continue this series. The ending of this book was pretty exciting, had lots more action than most of the rest of the book. I'm curious about what happens next, but it was kind of a struggle for me to get through because of the writing style, but we shall see if I continue. I did end up giving this book 3.75 stars, so I did like it, but it wasn't like a favorite. However, the next book is a favorite. So then I read the 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I love this book. It is about Clementine, whose aunt passed away recently and she inherits her apartment. And growing up, her aunt has always told her that this is a magical apartment. And she like kind of believed her when she was a kid, but now she's like, oh, that's just the way that my aunt thought about life and like whatever. But then one day she walks in to her apartment and there is a man in her apartment. She's like, what is this guy doing here? And she realizes that what her aunt had told her, that the apartment can time jump 7 years in the past, is actually true. That is the premise of the story. Clementine is such a good main character, and also the main character, it's spelled I-W-A-N, but in my head I was pronouncing it Ewan, I think. So that's how I'm gonna say it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I loved the characters. Ewan's like view on life and just the little moments in life was so cool, and the way he talked about it was just so beautiful. I loved Clementine's art, and Ewan was like very bubbly, excited person. Personality was really fun, and their jobs and their hobbies were just fun to like follow along. It added a cool aspect to the story. She works in publishing and he is a chef, and she also paints as like her side hobby. I love magical realism so much. and especially time travel. The way that the time travel affects their relationship, like how one person will know some of the relationship and the other person won't, or they'll know more than the other one. Like if you have seen Doctor Who, it's a very nerdy reference, but it reminds me of the Doctor and River song from Doctor Who, where it just like adds a really interesting dynamic to their relationship that's like obviously super not realistic, but it's so interesting and just fun to like read about. I loved it. So this one was a 5-star read for me. I love her writing style and I'm really excited to read her other book called The Dead Romantics. And then I read Defy the Night by Brigid Kemmerer. This is about Tessa and Corrick. So Tessa is kind of living in the poorer parts of this kingdom, and the kingdom is having an epidemic of what they call the fevers, and the only like cure or treatment is called the moonflower. And the moonflower is a limited resource, and there's some like supply issues because of who is providing the moonflower to the kingdom. So Tessa is seeing that the poorer populations of the kingdom are being like disproportionately affected by the fact that moonflower is so expensive and all of this stuff. So she is stealing the moonflower from the richer people who are hoarding it basically, so that she can give it to the people who can't afford it as much. And then Corrick, so this is a dual POV. Corrick is the prince, but he's also the king's justice. So he is punishing smugglers who are stealing the moonflower and trying to make a profit for themselves, and he's trying to keep all of the consuls, which is like the government officials, happy so the supply doesn't like get super messed up. He's dealing with that like political side of things. I think this is a fantasy book that is really easy to understand. There's not really any magic that is a part of this. So if you're like new to fantasy, this one would be a really good one to pick up. The politics are also like not super complicated, super easy to follow along, so I definitely recommend this one for a beginner fantasy book. But I just loved Corrick's POV. Just seeing like from his perspective was so cool and so sweet also. And I could also really relate to Tessa. She had kind of like anxiety, thought spirals kind of personality. Like when she had like a bad feeling about something, she would just like overthink about it and like dwell on it. And yeah, I could relate to that. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars, and I'm really excited to continue the series. And then the next 3 books that I'm going to talk about, I read in my Spinning Wheel Chooses My Reads reading vlog. If you guys want to watch that, you can follow along with me, my reading journey. But the first one is The Raven Boys by Maggie Steifvader. This book is about Blue, whose family are all psychics, and they have always told her that if she kisses her true love, he will die. They've all said this like different kinds of divination. They've said it all separately, like they all agree no matter what, even if they haven't talked about it. It's just like a prophecy about her life that is definitely true. In the beginning of this story, her aunt comes to visit and tells her that this is the year she's gonna meet her true love. And that just kind of kicks off the story. She meets the Raven Boys. There's 4 of them. There is Gainsey, Ronan, Adam, and Noah. And this book has such a cool found family aspect. I knew that that was true just based on like the back of the book and the fact that it's like, you know, a group of teenagers. Usually there's the found family aspect of that. But the Raven Boys, they go to like a prep school. This one is also paranormal because of like the psychic aspect to it, and also the boys are on this mission that involves like the spiritual world. Yeah, it was really cool modern fantasy. This is the first book in a 4-book series, and then there's like a spin-off series, and I actually read that one last year, not realizing that it was like a sequel series to The Raven Boys, which I was planning on reading. So I already knew some of the characters going into this book, and I also spoiled some things for myself before reading this book, which is like a kind of a bummer, but also the way that Maggie Steifvader writes, she gives you absolute crumbs of the mysterious aspects of the characters' personalities. So you have to really like piece things together remember all the tiny details and you still don't get the whole picture until, you know, later on in the series or whatever. So I was kind of glad that I had one of my questions answered, because she just really leaves you hanging on the edge of your seat and it really hooks you. She also gives crumbs of romance, but also I kind of love that because like the slow burn really makes me want to continue the series and read faster, and I just loved basically everything about this book. It was a great plot, great characters. I love her writing style. I've read a different book by her called The Scorpio Races, which is one of my favorite books. Yeah, so excited to keep reading this series. I gave this one 4.5 stars as well. Then I read The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. This book is about Belly, who has always gone to this beach house with her mom and her brother, and her mom's best friend owns the beach house, and she has 2 sons who are around Belly's age. So she's kind of grown up with them. Their names are Conrad and Jeremiah, and this is finally the summer where she is no longer considered a kid. Like, she is a teenager. She's 15 now, so she's just seems older than she always has. And when they see her, they're like shocked because she looks different and she's pretty. So I liked Belly, but she was kind of annoying in like a realistic way. Like, as a 15-year-old, you're just trying to like figure out who you are and how to interact with people, and like especially this added like romance aspect that you're trying to figure out. It's just awkward and you're trying to get attention, and when you feel left out, you like act out. And like, she was just so realistic as a 15-year-old and relatable as well. Like, all of her thoughts and everything was like, yeah, when I was 15 I probably did that too, or I thought the same way, whatever it was. So I really like her, even though she has some flaws, but that's just how it goes. There's a love triangle in this book between the brothers, of course. So I'm excited to continue the series and see who she ends up with, but it has really good summer beachy vibes. It was also just like a super easy read, very fast. It's less than 300 pages. You can read this in a day. It was really fun. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read The Maze Runner by James Dashner. This book is about Thomas. He wakes up with no memories. He understands how the world works, but he doesn't remember any experiences or any people or anything. And he knows his name, and that's it. And so he wakes up in an elevator, and when the doors open, there's like a big group of kids, all these boys, and he's like in this box, basically like a big square with huge 4 walls. And he finds out that this box he is in is surrounded by this huge maze, which is infested with monsters. And so these boys are like trying to figure out how to escape what they call the glade, and like they're plotting and mapping out the maze to try to get out. This book is very fast-paced, very exciting. There's something interesting and exciting, action-packed happening in every chapter. The concept, I think, is pretty genius. I don't know how James Dashner came up with that idea. How does your brain work? It's really cool. I already kind of was super familiar with the concept from the movie, so I wasn't super shocked by it or anything. And also, this book is dystopian, and I don't really love dystopian because I really enjoy like feel-good books, like feel-good romance books, or like super cozy settings, or like super lovable characters. And the characters in this book are likable, but I didn't feel like super connected to them. So that's why I didn't enjoy it as much, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. And I'm still not sure if I'm going to continue it or not. The end of this book did like intrigue me and made me want to like see where the story goes, but I'm still not sure if I'm gonna keep reading. And then we ended October on a high note because I read You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. This book is about Naomi and Nicholas. They're engaged, but it's not going very well. Like, they're not super invested in their relationship. They're just kind of going through the motions. And she's like, all right, I can't marry this guy. I need to break off this engagement. But she's like, I can't do that because then I'll have to pay for all the things they already bought for the wedding. And so she's like, if I just make him break off the relationship, then he'll have to pay for it. So she's like sabotaging their relationship and doing all these super annoying things to make him want to break up with her. It's a second chance romance trope, like relationship and turmoil trope. I think that's my new favorite trope. I just loved it so much how like they knew each other really well, and like falling back in love with each other thing was just so cute. This book gave me butterflies. It kept me up at night after I had finished it because I was just thinking about it. It was so cute. I think the reason that I really loved their relationship and the romance of this is because physical attraction was like not the first reason that they fell back in love with each other. I think that happens a lot in romance books. It's like, oh my gosh, they're so attractive. Like the physical parts of the relationship come first and then they fall in love with each other. But this was very much focused on like them falling back in love with each other's personalities and like the way that they show each other love. I've heard a lot of people say this, but if your love language is acts of service, you need to read this book. Like, it's full of that. It's so sweet. Also, this is a perfect book to read in winter because it's set like October through January, and the setting in this book is just so cozy. It's set in Wisconsin. The descriptions and everything are just like super cozy, super wintry. I loved this story so much and I ended up giving it 5 stars. Definitely recommend this one, especially during this time of year. So should read it soon. And then the 2 crochet projects that I finished this month. The first one is actually this tank top. So this is a mesh tank top. I followed Anna Greene's tutorial on YouTube. So if you're interested in making a tank top like this, you should definitely go check out that video. I really had a fun time. Mesh stitch just works up so fast. So I really enjoyed making this. Yeah, and I think it's like super cute and flattering since it's like stretchy. And then I also finally finished this sweater. I used the pattern by Hayhay Crochet. It's a free pattern. It's called the Faerie Granie shrug. So it was supposed to be just like the sleeves. So it like cuts off like kind of right there and it's just the sleeves. But I extended it just because I wanted to make it like a cropped sweater. And it took me forever because I like ran out of yarn and like waited a long time to get more and all that stuff. But I really love this sweater. I've worn it a couple of times just like out and about in my life, and it's really soft and warm and so fun. If you guys see me wearing either of these crochet clothes in every single one of my videos, mind your own business because I just love them. Very proud of myself and happy that I got to make myself clothes. It's just fun. So yeah, those are the 2 crochet projects I did in October, and also the 7 books that I read. So if you guys have read any of these books, please let me know down below. I'd love to chat about them. Let me know if you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you guys did, and I hope that you guys have a really great day. Bye!